Hello, everybody. It's been 2 weeks. 2 weeks, and here we are. We're back. I'm Mike. This is Rennell, and we are here for a good, fun time. This is a live again, and we've missed you last week. And Rennell has great stories. I mean, we are. It's been like the 2 weeks. Prior to that, she was in that house fire, so she's had a pretty rough month.
Yeah,
Or a pretty crazy month, I should say, at least. Right?
it's so weird to go through my stuff and realize when I touch it, everything is just, it looks okay until I touch it, and my hands are just this black goo. And I can't explain it because it's not just black smoke, but it's like something from wires. You know what I mean? Like
A
plasticky.
film, like a film type
Yeah,
film.
yeah, and it's like all over my stuff.
Oh,
It's terrible.
that's terrible.
Yeah, so I've lost everything. I have nothing. So I've pretty much given up on anything other than a few little items, you know. But
Yeah,
other than
I know there were many people that wanted to reach out and help, and we can talk about that because me and Rennell haven't actually had much opportunity to speak the past 2 weeks. But
yeah,
I think we can get you worked out. I think there was a lot of people that wanted to help, but just didn't know how to go about doing that
yeah,
because
I need
we don't know
something.
where you want to be or anything.
I need something as simple as a blanket, honestly.
Well, I told you, we've got blankets. We've got lots of blankets. I can make a bed out of the blankets that we have.
You'll be allowed
Literally a warehouse full of blankets that we sell. So, yeah. Anyway, we could probably hook you up with some.
Yeah,
There's
so
one that has Mrs. and Mrs. 2021 on
uh-huh.
it. I'm not sure if you want that one.
Hey,
But
I'm okay with anything that is a blanket that can keep me warm. Honestly, it's just I have nothing, and just so imagine nothing and
yeah,
trying to there is been. I'm looking around the room because there's a few things people have been kind to get, like toothbrushes and toothpastes, which is thank goodness for little things like that. A
the
comb.
essentials that you don't even realize you need
Yeah,
until you need them.
exactly. Some clothes I'm wearing right now, was given to me. So thank you to the person who gave me a shirt and some pants to wear. And I got a pair of shoes. So I'm grateful, for what I've gotten.
Yeah. And
Really, with gratitude.
yeah, I'm I'm sad with everything that happened. And it's, I think we'll go into it more in future shows as well, because I want to talk to you offline and figure that out, some things, and move forward. But today's topic, both of us discussed this at least and wanted to really talk about it, which is the power of the spirit to direct and save our lives. And that's the title of the show today, and that's the direction that we want to go.
I wanted that because this time, I'd had experiences throughout the week. And I would sneak downstairs, and honest to goodness, I had creepy feelings downstairs. I'd be up in my apartment and I'd get this evil feeling, so thick that you could cut it with a knife. It was almost frightening.
And this is in your apartment prior to the fire, correct?
Prior to the fire, and I'd go down there, and downstairs where the pottery area is kind of a pottery studio. Is that a good way to call it?
Yeah, I think. Yeah,
They make
barn.
pottery. There you go. He makes pottery,
Mm-hmm.
and hadn't been doing it for a while. So when I went down there, there was never anyone there, and I thought, "What's going on with me? Why do I keep getting these feelings
Yeah,
when there's nothing here?" And so days before that, I was getting that. But the morning that it happened, there was nothing. Um,
Was
but
it
go ahead.
was it your frame of mind the day of? Like prior, you were sensitive enough to feel it and understand it as you walked downstairs, but on that day of, were things different in a way where you were distracted with things that just get thrown at you in daily life? Because I think that's pretty common for us as human beings, right? So, I mean, is
And
that
I'm cognitive of that, even if it's still and it's small.
yeah?
And it's taken a lot of practice because over time, um, it's taken that. I am not perfect by any stretch of the imagination, when it comes to listening to
Oh
spirit
no,
or listening
you
to.
listen all the time.
Sure. So I was getting up and I was getting ready and getting busy because I had to leave that day to go get some things done. Um, and then all of a sudden I smelt wire burning. But other than that, I had had no other prior warning, which was unique for me. You know what I mean? Other than that, some creepy things happened that kind of had me questioning, what the heck's going on downstairs? Something's wrong. I don't know. I got, how you second guess. You really
Yeah,
do second guess yourself. People
and
who are successful, by the way, and I've had the opportunity to talk to Warren, Peter Buffett, um, and I could go, the list could go on and on and on of individuals who've done extremely well in their lives. And I can't think of them right now because, honest to goodness, this post traumatic, which I wanted to talk to you about, and I wanted us to talk about, has really affected my mind,
yeah,
and that I can't access information as quickly as I used to.
oh
I
yeah,
mean, things could come up quick, and I could come up with information easily. It was something that I cherished. It was a little
yeah.
bit of a gift for me.
You were
Um,
snap quick. Uh,
Snap.
yeah,
I don't know
and I
that was
get what you're saying because it's like almost a fog, but really it's like you can feel or see what is on the other side or what the it's hard to explain, but you just can't access it. You know it's there, but you can't get to it. And it comes along with the feelings of everyone's felt the fight or flight feeling at different times, but it's basically that comes back and it overrides a lot of the things going on in your mind because it's telling you run away or fight, right?
right.
Um, like you're physically changing, and so it's telling you go, and you get
And I
hyper
had
focused on
that
whatever it
day.
is you're doing. Go ahead.
When you, when you get into panic mode, though, it changes everything you could possibly think of. By the time you hit panic, man, you better know what you're doing. You better have practiced it enough times that
Yeah,
speaking of October, this is why I'm bringing it up. This month is fire prevention and burn awareness. So be aware that you really need to be prepared. You really do need to know what you're going to do when that smoke comes in really thick and you can't see. And I can promise you that I could not see max the width of my hand. That was it. I could not see ahead of me at all.
yeah,
It was that black and it was that thick. It was
yeah,
like walking in blindness, and it was very frightening. And that fear comes up, and you do that thing, like you said, fight or flight.
yep,
And honestly, I sat in the hospital thinking, why didn't I see this? Because I'm always pretty good at seeing things before they happen, or I have a sense of feeling,
yeah.
or a spiritual prompting that says,
I
this is
can
good.
attest to that. Yeah, I've seen it.
And by golly, I've been really good at it. But that day, it just disappeared. It, I didn't know what to do. And
Yeah.
I found myself running, down the stairs, up the stairs. We won't get into the whole story tonight.
Yeah. There's another episode where we talk about a lot of that.
Yeah. But the ash that was when I finally opened one of the windows, the only window, I should say, over the stairs, which, by the way, I could not even think of jumping to. I mean, I looked at different various ways of trying to go, even to try to get to the window enough to jump out the window. There was no way. There was no way. I tried everything.
Yeah.
Um, it was really frightening in that way that I have never felt so trapped in my entire life. And
And
that's
you,
time.
you were in a small plane that crashed and burned your body, and that story is also in a previous episode. But I mean,
Right.
your yeah. So when you say it was traumatic, it was traumatic for sure. And the way I see it is the real thing I want to key in on is what happened afterward, what happens after that trauma hits, and the process of working through that and dealing with some of it is going to be permanent. It's going to be things that have changed within you, in your mind, and you have to kind of deal with some of those things. Now, there's all like part of that is when you have an episode, your mind starts blocking things off, right? You can't access everything as quick. And so
That,
there's many other symptoms.
that's a biggie, and
Yeah.
and that's frustrating.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. It's been frustrating in my life as well. But I mean, so anyway, really feeling the spirit through that. And that I want to segue into that because really I've had to learn in my life since I struggled with PTSD. I've talked about that in previous episodes too, but dealing with that, I've had to learn how to listen to the spirit even when I'm in panic, even when my body is rejecting it, and my mind can't connect with my heart in the same way that I can normally when I'm meditating or when I'm peaceful or when I'm so when I'm going through an episode, uh, I've had to learn what that spirit sounds like in my head. Sounds like it's not the right word, but what thoughts pop
It
in my
feels
head.
like there's an actual feeling. There's an
Yeah,
actual connection that happens in the brain, in the amygdala, the back portion of the brain that's ignited. So, on every aspect, you're right. There's a level of alarms going off, to feel,
yeah,
um, and it's critical to all of us right now.
yeah,
And yet, when something happens, how do you, if you haven't practiced it, if you haven't gotten yourself prepared for it, how can you call on it?
yeah.
You
It's
know,
really key in our lives going forward is things are getting crazy out there. I think all of us can agree. We can go into that later some other time, but ultimately life is getting more complicated and more complicated for the world, for
very
individuals.
serious. Yeah, there's
and
some
and,
real events.
and so if something big does happen, if you're not in a position where you know what that, because you get overwhelmed, your mind and your feelings get overwhelmed, and you cannot, it's like trying to pick out a stick in a river. And so as far as the spirit, right, and
Right,
that's something that people who have PTSD, at least in a severe way, that will affect them in a very similar way regardless of where they're at, which is a little bit different. But ultimately, if we're not practiced enough to know what that stick or the spirit looks like or feels like, we aren't going to be able to pick it out from all the other messages that our brain is firing off. So, Dave,
right. How does
constantly.
that manifest for you? How does that manifest in your life? How do things come to you?
Sometimes, so I have two different states I'll bring up, states of mind. When I'm
Okay.
in a calm, normal state of mind, I'll just call it normal because that there's not another word I can think of.
Your
Um,
life, no, ah.
I'm not normal. Leave me alone. So,
Yeah, you
um,
normal?
but I, in that state, in the peaceful or mic state, whatever, I can feel it in my heart and my mind at the same time. It's peaceful and it comes through in a very calm way. And it actually, I can easily pick it out. I know what it feels like. I can, even if there's crazy things going on, as long as I'm not, I don't hate the word, but triggered's overused, but that is a good word, or activated, or whatever it is that makes these episodes happen. That's the second state. And that's in that state, my body, because normally you can kind of feel it in your core, right?
Right.
You feel that.
Right
But
here.
Go
And,
ahead.
and like I said, there's this signal that hits the brain. It goes straight down the spine.
Yeah.
You
Are you
can't,
talking about the spirit, or are you talking about the trauma or the flight or flight?
on both.
Both.
You know, it's an interesting thing with fight or flight. I think there's a feeling of panic
Yeah.
that overrides those really peaceful, wonderful feelings that you do get.
Yep.
You know, with what do you call it? Like with those warnings, this is that. Okay, this is the moment. Are you ready? Come on, get it together. Sorry, I have to get a glass of water. My voice is getting really dry.
Oh, that's okay.
And this is because I'm still going through PTSD myself, and so I get really dry mouth. To you?
I do when I am in an episode for too long, or I don't drink enough water. But I could imagine even with your, inhaling all that smoke.
Yeah, that
as well.
I'm still picking out literally ash out of my nose. It's still coming out of my sinus. So
that's not
yeah,
good.
it's. I never thought after a
Blow
couple
your
weeks
nose.
I would still.
You just
Pardon?
blow your nose like in the cartoons where they blow and they have that, thing and it goes,
Yeah,
blow
right.
really hard. And yeah, that's what I'm picturing in my mind. These are the things that go on in my mind right now. Okay.
Well, kind of figured.
I think in cartoons, it happens. So,
that's what I guess I'm saying. So when look back to the subject is when you get that, what are the first thoughts? What's the first thing that goes through your mind? What is the first aha moment, that epiphany moment?
There's for me, there's different emotions that come along with when you go into those episodes, right? But the one thing that is always consistent is the way that I feel, or not feel, but that I can recognize that spirit speaking to me in my mind. And it's because I recognize and have listened to it so often in the calm moments that when I go into the hectic, crazy moments, or I'm having an episode, I can pick it out. And part of it is, the blessing of going through these episodes. If I didn't go through all these episodes, I wouldn't have the practice to be able to pick it out.
And you know what's so fascinating to me after my experiences, realizing it doesn't have to be something really huge to cause the kind of PTSD that affects you that way, that can so profoundly affect you for the rest of your life.
Yep. I brought it up and I did a solo episode while you were in the hospital. I don't know if you got to see it, but it talked about, I talked about my experience now that happened within a church setting, and there was complete trust there. And so there was almost an institutional type betrayal that was felt on a deep level. It's not like I, thought through this or whatever. I tried to move on. That was my life then. But
how do you move on? Wow.
Yeah. Well, you think you do, but
Right.
it's there, and it can affect who you are and how you respond to things, and how you respond to things slowly changes who you are. And so if you can catch it early enough, you can not get rid of it completely. I don't believe in that, but I do believe that you're much better off the earlier you catch it, and the earlier that you can think your way through and try and work your way through these emotions that come with PTSD and dealing with it. It's not easy, and it's not just going to go away, but the longer you go trying to deny it and trying to just push through it, the more damage is done, in my mind, because that's my experience.
Well, they say that's true. It
changes the way I think and respond, and then it digs its way in more and more. And so it went for 10 years of me just thinking, oh, that was nothing. I moved on from that. Right. But
right.
It was a problem for me, and recognizing that even once I, I couldn't work anymore. Once I got to that point, it still took me another 3 years before I realized what was happening to me.
I don't know how you handle it. I really don't, because I now, after experiencing a panic attack to the level that I did in the hospital, I sincerely don't know how anyone deals with a panic attack.
Yeah.
Or PTSD. And yet my experiences in the hospital showed me the future, in the very near future. And wow, we've got to buckle up, Buttercup, and yet these things are real. The only thing that I can think of is God is real, and really is the ultimate healer.
Yeah.
Because I've used hypnotherapy and used the sessions that I use that I think are very effective.
They are.
I don't know how you've really felt about it, because we've really never talked about it, have we?
There was an episode, probably our first or second one, where I talked about how when I came to your home and we did that, there was a miracle of I was able to feel the Spirit of God again, and
that's amazing.
That alone was the miracle, and all the other stuff that I'm still dealing with to a degree, because people give lip service and say, "Oh, you'll work through it; it'll be okay." It's not just gonna go away. It's not just something that magically is healed. It becomes part of who you are in some cases, and so it's different for everybody. So don't get me wrong. Some people ride out, but those that struggle with it long term, it's okay. You can still have a good life with those things, but we can't just say, oh, it's all going to get better, because that's what I did for 10 years. Every time something, I would get, I would have these moments. I would just, I just need to work harder, get better sleep, eat better. I need to work on myself. I need to fix this. I need to.
So you didn't isolate it enough.
Say that again.
So you didn't isolate it, and you didn't isolate it enough to know what was going on while you were struggling through that.
Correct,
right?
Because my mind was set on, I got to work. I got to make a living. I got to focus on what I can do for my family. I can't just sit around and deal with this stuff. I wanted to be healthy, and so I thought positively. I went through many different modalities of trying to feel or get better, but I'd never identified that was the specific moment that had changed everything for me going forward. And it was because of that institutional type betrayal that I felt in my heart that I didn't recognize.
Wow.
So
how can we tonight, let's say something happens instantly, like we're just doing, hypotheticals tonight.
Okay. Hypothetical.
So suddenly we hear that Russian troops are coming on land on the California border right now. And not only are they coming on ship, they're just coming right through the border, both the north and the south side of the furthest end of California and New York. What do you do? What do you do in that moment? What does that moment cue into you? Are you listening? Are you thinking, oh, it's just the media? Are you thinking along the line of, well, I'll wait? In fact, I saw something interesting on the Maui fire. It just blew me away. This guy was sitting in his house, and he thought, I'm just going to sit here. I'm not kidding you. I don't think it was 150 feet away, maybe closer. He said, if the fire hits that tree, if the fire gets that huge to come to that level of that tree, then I'll leave. He only had 2 minutes to get out of there, and everyone else too. And so he was in this long, as you heard, this long level of cars trying to get out.
Long line of cars, yeah.
Instead of acting on, well, maybe now I should leave. Or
and the so real thing. Oh, go ahead.
Hypothetical. It's a for sure thing. The president's now gone on public. You hear the announcement. Now what?
Well, I think there's only so much you can do to prepare for something along those lines. You have to think about, that preparedness is different than the real message that I would want to leave to people. But what I would do is hopefully I had prepared enough that I have food, water, or a way to survive outside of the current environment I'm in and be able to move and change, to have flexibility. Because if you're not flexible in your thinking, you're not going to be able to just let go of a life, right? Or not of a current lifestyle or whatever. So whatever it is that happens, or if that happened, I would very keenly listen for that voice that comes in my mind. I have all of the things set up in advance as best I can. And then I would follow what that spirit told me very closely, because I believe that spirit can warn, and it can give us comfort. It can do so many things for us. But that's really what I would do.
Would you act out and call family? Would you get in the truck, pack up? What would you do?
I mean, I would do things to prepare, but I wouldn't just leave without that feeling. I wouldn't just go, because
information.
Yeah, without that inspiration of what to do.
So you
say that again.
So should people wait until they get that absolute confirmation?
No, I'm not saying that, because I believe that the spirit can be with you at all times.
Okay.
And you can access, if you have the ability to access it on demand almost, which takes practice. It's not like something that I'm perfect at either, but at least often enough that you can get a feel of what is best in that moment. The reason why I don't have an answer of when to act, you need to be able to act fast and go if you need to. But having access prior to that situation, having access to that spirit, I think is key to surviving a situation like that.
Okay. What if it was something very quick?
Well,
and somebody's in your yard, and they're right in your yard, ready to somehow access your house.
Oh yeah, I'd put them down.
And 911's not working because it's already being flooded from all the phone calls of everybody else going through the same thing. Then what? What would you do? How would you? So you talked about being prepared, right?
Mm-hmm.
Prepared with the things that are necessary.
Yeah.
Basic living after the storm.
Yeah, and I think protection is one of those things. Is a decent idea if your situation can allow a weapon in the home. If there's someone depressed in the home, be careful.
Yeah,
you don't want to bring it in there. There's being responsible with weapons. It's key, but ultimately, having protection is something that is advisable in those situations. Now, I'm not saying don't act until you feel the spirit. I'm saying act and access the spirit as you go. But I just don't have a direction because I know that there would be something of a guidance and a try, but you have to be able to act. You have to act. You can't just sit. Sometimes though, it's stay where you're at, but you have to be doing something, trying to find, a way to protect or to prepare for the worst.
Okay, so you're at the worst, though. That's what I'm trying to get at around.
Well, my point is, if there's somebody in your backyard, you put them down. Like that. I'm saying that you can act, you can do those things, and be able to go. But that until that moment, up until then, like from now until then, I'm saying that is when it's key. Because once you get in that situation, you need to be able to act. You need to be able to listen to the spirit. You need to be able to know how it guides you, because you're going to have to act.
I think that's the most critical thing that I'm trying to get you to say is that moment of knowing when to act. Yeah. When you have that moment that says, okay, now's the time to act, and now I've got to do something.
Yeah.
And really contemplating really quickly, okay, this is what I've got to do. I've got to get prepared and start moving in a calm fashion. I think that's what I noticed was my mistake with this time was I was not in a calm fashion at all. I was panicked because I couldn't get out.
Yeah.
And the moment I realized I couldn't get out, rather than giving myself the opportunity to feel the spirit or ask God to help me out of this, get me out of here, because my thought was, well, this is the third time. Is this really my time, I guess? And, I'm serious 3 times.
No, yeah, I mean, come on.
Those are the thoughts that go through your mind. Okay, so third time, is this really it then? Is this that time you want me to go? And then if you want me to survive, how do I survive? There's no way to survive, so now what do I do? And it's so funny that when you get to that level, when you've done all that you can do on your part, there's no question that's when the miracle begins.
Yeah.
Because
it has to, otherwise it's over.
right?
Yeah.
That's that moment when somebody's heard you screaming out the window, which they did hear me. They heard me screaming, trying to figure out, why is she screaming out the window? That's not like her, and coming and checking it out. Um, and then going back down the stairs, going, has the fire gone long enough that maybe I can get through it?
Mm-hmm.
And calm enough to take a couple deep breaths to go, okay, I'm going to open the door again and I'm going to look and see how bad things really are. And then I've got to make some really serious decisions right now. It's funny because you become very hyper focused on preparation and making very serious decisions that you can't come back on.
Yeah.
That's it.
But decisiveness is very important.
Yeah.
And it's very important. It doesn't mean you act without thought. Your mic turned off somehow. But anyway, there you are. You're back. You don't act without thought. You want to be decisive and decide and move and go, because and then try and feel that spirit as you go and look out for you. So it's in those moments that you need to be able to pick that out. And you know what? You have to be willing to accept God's will, one way or the other. Warnings might not always come. And there's going to be good reason for that. I don't know what it is, but
I don't know what it is either, because this one didn't come.
Well,
and this one almost took my life, and I'm living my life in a way that I'm reading the scriptures. I love reading the Bible and studying the Bible. Hadn't done it in a while, so it was nice to start again, and really take a daily time to read it. I live the golden rule. I do everything I can not to hurt anyone. I don't steal, or all those basic things.
Yeah.
And I go even beyond that to make sure that I'm not intentionally, but when given the opportunity, if I can see somebody needs help, I'm there.
Yeah.
Right?
Yep.
And so in that moment, I didn't have that. Honestly, it's been like the most difficult thing to overcome is, why didn't I have that moment of a warning? Why did I feel like God wasn't there for me?
Yeah.
For
your emergency.
Yeah, because it was an outright emergency, and people have those all the time.
Yep.
And it's a struggle to sit there and live through it and then go, what could I have done? Why didn't certain things happen, or why didn't I act certain ways? You go through all the processes of healing, of regret and reprisal and all of it, and for me not to have had that signal is very worrisome, and it still is for me right now. Am I making my decision?
You're making perfect sense to me. I just have a perspective in my mind of, if you didn't get one with as sensitive as you are and you recognize things like that, then
we're all vulnerable, right?
Yeah, we all are, and there is times when we can make mistakes, but lessons are learned and everything turned for our good through Christ, right? And so I believe that if you didn't get the warning, then there was no warning to be had, and it was something that
I mean, I
whether
was at that point. I was at that point to say, God, if you want me to go, I'll go. I mean, I wasn't fighting it. You know what I mean? Whoops. I wasn't fighting that moment at all, Mike.
right. Yeah,
I was happy. I'm out of here. I know what heaven's like.
yeah, you do.
And I wasn't having suicidal thoughts. So it wasn't like that. So I was really open to whatever God wanted. It wasn't like I was begging for my life or that I was begging. What I was begging for was a miracle. Show me the next step because I don't see it.
Well, you took it.
You know, and I've been sharply criticized for taking that step.
Yeah, which I think is crazy, but that's another story.
Yeah.
You get out of the house that's burning. You don't stay where you're at. That's ridiculous.
Period, right?
Yep.
It's the way it is. And
it's not like an earthquake, you know, or I don't know what other things. You stay where you're at. If you lose somebody.
Smoke, fire is a living thing.
Yeah.
You know, of all the elements, it's alive and it's living. It breathes. It needs fuel and food to survive. Sorry about this, guys, but I have just got to grab the water and get a sip of water again. So with a living thing coming on you, wanting to take your life or possibly putting you through burn again, you know, and going through the hell of what a burn is like, you know, it took everything within me to not go through the panic. But here's what did happen. When I got into the hospital, I did have panic attacks so bad that I honestly, they have my hands strapped, worried that I would pull out the, you know, what do they call them, those tubes that they put down your throat?
Oh, intubation.
Yes. Intubation. Yeah. Yeah. So knowing that that's the way it was, holy cow, it was, I was panicking and trying, they tied my arms, which made me even madder, is they tied my arms to the bed. You know,
seems to me like losing complete control of your reality or things around you. I mean, you were trapped inside that house.
And so that
trapped in that bed for 3 weeks. Well, in one way or the other, 3 weeks of being trapped. And that is
we lose control.
Yeah.
We don't have control over what is right there and taking control of our lives in that moment.
Yeah.
We lose that control. And I think and you tell me what your thoughts are about when does it become a more larger condition of panic attacks after a traumatic experience like that. And I'm a big meditator.
Yeah.
You know, and I'm hugely about prayer.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I'm a hypnotherapist, so I believe that
the
mind you can go deep and change things. So what are your thoughts about when you get to that level where you're panicking that somebody has made it their decision because you can't control your panic attacks, because you can't control yourself, they're taking control of you now? What would you do?
So if we're talking about another human taking away my agency, essentially, or locking me down, making me make a choice. Yeah. So I mean, if someone was going to hurt, I mean, there's there's certain things that, you have to maintain calm as best you can. But you're right. When you get to that state of panic, I've had to learn to make decisions even in that state of panic, because I would go into that panic mode in the middle of talking to a customer while I'm trying to sell them something. I would go into that panic mode when I'm in church talking to some other person, or whatever situation I was going into. Those panic modes come out of seemingly nowhere. And so I still had to live and be able to speak and to interact. And so basically, you can still make those choices and still have a level of calm in your mind, even though your entire body is up with panic. But it's not. Say that again.
When does it become a level of a condition that takes over your life? That
chronic,
more frequent, more chronic. That's the word.
Yeah, chronic. When it goes from 3 weeks, 6 months, when it gets past 6 months, and this is according to the profession, I guess. But, I have my feelings about that. But anyway, my point is that once it gets to about 6 months and it continues to happen, then it can be considered more of a long-term chronic situation. And that's when professional help is good, but it doesn't work for everybody. And you have to make sure that you're open to try as many things as you can. You can only do what you can do. And so I believe that
you can possibly do on your part.
Yeah, and I think that's a double-edged sword, because that's how I believe so much so that I put myself into situations that were even, why am I not getting better? Why is this not getting better?
Why isn't it getting better? There's the next step. Why am I still reliving this? Why am I still having a panic attack? Why am I still screaming in the night?
Yeah, my thing was, and a lot of it came down to meditation. And after all the years with whatever therapy it was, I was more in touch and understanding of how I work. And because everyone's so different, there's not going to be a one-size-fits-all. And so you have to understand yourself and contemplating why you react certain. But for me, it actually built a snowball. So because of the situation that happened then, later down in later years, I would it would become a new trauma, dealing with the old trauma in the moment.
Oh my.
And so it doesn't even, because for a long time I didn't put that together in the sense that it was this snowballing thing that kept building up off itself, right? And there's not really a way to just unwind your mind and change it, unless it's a miracle from God, which I've had with the spiritual side of being able to feel. But some things aren't going to be taken away in this life. They're just not. Because this life is not meant to be easy. It's not meant to.
That's frightening, Mike.
Yeah, well, I don't know.
You're so frightening.
Oh, we lost her. But I would say, as far as it being frightening, in the moment it can be. And I feel that if we need to have we need to be kind to ourselves and understanding in the way that we might be to others who go through maybe similar things. But to be understanding to yourself, I think, is a key point of getting through these types of things. It's okay that you feel the way that you do. It's not necessarily your fault. In fact, it's most likely not your fault at all. And so finding a way through it and finding a way to deal with whatever pain it is, I think, is a process, and it takes so much time, and it's not all going to go away, but nothing is wrong with you inherently because of that. You're going to go through things that are difficult. We all do. But if you're dealing with this or with people that have PTSD, you need to find your way to get through it. My way was through turning to God and the Spirit and trying to be as elevated spiritually as I possibly could be. And I think my life was somewhat designed, isn't the right word, but the things that I've gone through have been informative to how I'm living now. And I think that those things, you ultimately can grow to a degree that you can benefit from those hard things that you're going through. And there's opposites in all things, and opposition too, but yin and yang. Everything, for every good, there's also a bad. And if it were not so, says in the scriptures, then God ultimately would cease to exist. He wouldn't be there, because there is cause and effect. There's a balance that we have to find. And there's a balance that exists. So accepting the pain of where you're at and looking to the future to try and make it just a little better at a time, and not put yourself through situations that will be detrimental to your growth. Meaning, don't start getting down on yourself to the degree where you're not only dealing with that panic, but you're also dealing with the deep depression of not being able to deal with it. Why are you not normal? Right? But you are normal. Many people have dealt with these things. You're just might be more severe than theirs. Mine was very severe on not that people have gone through much worse than what I've gone through. But for whatever reason, this is the way that my mind ended up being wired. So I do my best. I accept responsibility for the things that are within my control. Sounds like I'm in AA right now. But you accept the things that are out of your control, because you can't do anything really about them. And things are within your control. You do your best, but you have to have love for yourself. So if you find that, and that's one of the great commandments, love your neighbor as thyself. So you need to love yourself. So even in your broken state, which we all are broken in one way or the other, mine's just in the head. So up here, I have to remember that I have great worth and I'm important to people in my life, yes, which I think is key, but also to a God that loves me, that will guide me in those moments of distress, if that is his will. Renell's calling me, so I'm going to pick it up. Hello, Renell.
Yes, I'm disconnected. It will not connect me back on.
Did you go through the email?
I did. It will not let me go back on.
Okay. Well, then I'll finish this out with them.
Okay, and yeah, we'll just carry on for. I'm thinking I'd like to try the middle of the week.
Yeah, I do like that idea, doing the middle of the week.
Yeah,
That's what she's saying, guys.
Let them know that we're going to try for a Thursday night or Wednesday night.
Okay, I like that. We'll talk about it later, and I'll post it up on the YouTube so you can see everybody.
Yeah, I want to know that this week I really want them to contemplate and think: are they really ready? Are they spiritually ready to make quick decisions that have to be made?
Okay. I will bring. If you guys didn't hear, contemplate if you are ready in those very stressful moments of distress. If you are in a place where you could feel and recognize the Spirit. So contemplate that, because
immediately.
Yeah. So that you can act on it immediately. Yeah.
With calmness, without panic, without
confidence.
Full faith in God.
Yeah.
Because everything that should have happened to me did not happen. Like my skin should have burned right off my face because carrying the heat. And it didn't.
Yeah. Hopefully you guys can hear her,
when you put your total whole trust in God, you can walk through fire.
Yeah. So she says, if you put your full trust in God and it's His will, you can walk through fire. That's what you're saying, right?
Yeah, you can't walk through fire. It's just, in my case,
you literally don't try it at home. Okay. This is not a social experiment or experiment at all. Just don't do it. But that's the kind of power. So I'll finish out here, Renelle, and we'll talk a little bit later.
Take care.
Bye-bye. You too. Bye. So hopefully you guys heard some of that, but ultimately think about where you are at spiritually, and do you have a connection where you can speak to God on a personal level? And if you can, don't really stress about those things in the future to a degree that it stops you from wanting to go to the future. But accept that bad things are going to happen. Good things are going to happen. We just need to do our best in the moment. So are you prepared in a way spiritually that you know how to act physically? Are you prepared in a way spiritually that you know how to act spiritually or emotionally and mentally? It's not for everybody to be in a position where there's some things I accept about myself, about my disease, that I've come to learn to accept in myself, that wouldn't necessarily be acceptable in a different situation. And so you need to have that personal relationship, so you know who you are in the eyes of God, and you know who you are to yourself through His eyes, really, is what you ultimately want to get to. And sometimes many times I feel that way, but I still have those moments, and it's not easy. And so I'm not going to say that you go until you get it fixed, right? There comes a point where you have to accept certain things, and it's hard for other people to accept that sometimes too. I know it was for me and my wife, for her to accept certain things that are sometimes out of my control. But it's very personal for each person, and don't just give up, but find that balance of being okay with where you're at, as long as you're moving forward in a way that is towards God, at least in my opinion, or towards a better life or a better tomorrow. Don't give up hope because today was crap. Tomorrow could be worse, but it also could be better. But regardless of what's going on around us, internally, we need to find as much peace and hope and love as we possibly can. But know that it's okay to not be there right now. You can get there. And that's how I think now. I can get there. I'm not done, but I can get there. Whether it's this life or the next, I will. That's the kind of determination I have. But in the moment, I'm still, in some ways, not who I want to be. And who I thought I should be is probably the better way to put it. So anyway, love yourself, love each other. Remember that spirit that guides, that spirit that directs is key to both our physical and spiritual and mental stability and safety. If you can tap into that and learn what it sounds like or feels like, or just the thoughts that come in your head, if you know what if you recognize it, then you're going to be way better off than without. Miles better off. So remember that, because you will get there eventually. But right now, just find that spirit. Find what God needs you to be now and what he wants you to be now, with the idea that he can take you where you ultimately want to go, because he can, and he will if you allow it. So I love everyone here, yeah. That's, Vulcan, but we won't go down that road. Okay. I'm only a nerd, not on this podcast. Okay. I'm not a nerd on this podcast. I'm a nerd outside of the podcast. Okay. Thanks. But we hopefully will see you this week, Thursday, possibly. That's what we want to do. But Renelle could be in another fire. We don't know. So she's just dodging things. So we're gonna try and make that happen. I will let you know in the chat. Please comment on the video and like it, because I know you liked it, because I don't want to think that you didn't like it. Yeah. Anyway, you guys all have a good night.